Hey guys, this may be one of the most important pillars, one of the most important sections. Here we're going to talk about healing trauma. And we're going to talk about healing trauma from an aspect of somatic processing. Somatic processing is pointing to this reality of polyvagal theory where we now know that the body keeps score. Well, what does that mean? Well, we have a thought. It's a neurotransmitter. Sends a signal to the hypothalamus where it creates a neuropeptide that's released through the pituitary gland, travels through the autonomic nervous system, frequently to a plexus of nerves, normally a hormonal center of some sort, where it broadcasts a signal that we know as an emotion. So the thought creates the emotion. It creates the feeling, right? The mental emotional golden rule that we really need to embrace here is that a thought by itself is not painful. It's the cascade of neurological activity that it's creating afterwards where we then feel something. So when we look at kind of really hardcore cognitive therapy, when we look at cognitive therapy that actually works, one of the things that we're doing is we're going back up to that first thought and we're asking, is this true? And there's a lot of ways for us to do mindful inquiry to dance with that, because very, very intelligent people, we suffer the most of the time because you're so good at arguing with yourself. So there's ways to deconstruct that. But as we move through and we're working with where it's showing up in the body, one of the things that we want to do, and we talk a little bit about this in Practice of Presence, we want to be able to come out of the default mode narrative and into the experiential mode of brain activity of now, and come out of the story and then look at how we're holding the story, the felt sense in the body. And so somatic processing is where there's a lot of different ways that we introduce people to a new perception of how to hold these stories of pain. And when we begin looking at these stories of pain, well, you can't leave a place that you haven't been. So we're, instead of being locked into these kind of stuck, say, two-dimensional, like flat 2D ways of viewing the world, we're introducing people to maybe a third or a fourth perception. The moment that we go from 2D to 3D, well, instead of being stuck where we were, suddenly there are some ways to flow through that we might have never even felt were possible, but were always there. And this is how we can set up very, very rapid downregulation, dissolving, discharging of the way the body is holding the story. And there's so many different ways that we approach this. There's so many amazing new techniques and modalities. Cognitive is great, but cognitive is, top-down processing. We're talking about thoughts, right? You already know how to think your way through a lot of different things. The question is can we get out of that, 1 to 1 million consciousness and move into that, 999,000 subconscious of conditioned behavioral habit that is actually making up a lot of our behavior and the way that we move through life? And can we begin bringing different levels of consciousness, awareness, then moving into acknowledgement? How do you look at it? And then looking at it, and then acceptance of what's actually here. Many of us that are suffering, we use our intelligence to create layers of mental strategy to not be with something, to not be aware of it, or to, even though we're aware of it, we certainly don't want to acknowledge it and we want to hide it. And then that creates a whole other issue of avalanche of problems. So how do you be with it in such a way that you can quickly leave it and choose something else? The rules in trauma are what we resist persists. So when we create mental strategy that doesn't allow us to become aware, acknowledge, and accept, we can't be with it in such a way that allows us to do what, quite honestly, we can do very, very rapidly, which is heal. Our bodies are designed to heal. And in a lot of the coursework material that we give, in a lot of the one-on-one coaching, even the groups, we talk a lot about and give metaphors so people can understand these mechanisms. And we throw a lot of these patterns up on the wall so that once you understand the mechanisms, well, then that's really clear choices of what it is that you can, what's going to work, what's not going to work, and what's next. There's no judgment about what you haven't done. There's no fault. There's no blame. It's just examining, okay, will this work or will this work? And now the choice becomes pretty clear. And now we're quickly committing to putting all of our power and energy into a particular route. So what are some of those methods? EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, EFT, emotional freedom technique, SE, somatic experiencing, focusing, Trauma releasing exercises. My personal favorite, although I'm trained in a lot of these or borrow from them, somatorespiratory integration, which we begin moving and understanding these 12 different levels or stages of healing, not to be confused with the 12 steps. There's a way for us to be with her, and there's seasons of healing, with the first 3 just being discovery. Before we're trying to move anything at all, it's just beginning to have a new relationship with ourselves, creating a vocabulary of description to where we create a conversation with parts of ourselves that we haven't paid attention to or loved in a very, very long time. And so I'm excited about this journey. I'm excited that you've discovered this information. What I want to say is that what we've learned in somatic processing, truly, we now have the psychological technology to completely eradicate mental and emotional suffering in this generation. We have that science now. The problem is that from what we know in research and what we've proven, and to its implementation in mainstream America, mainstream society, it's taking too long. We know how to do a lot of things. Most of the world is still stuck in talk therapy, in cognitive behavioral type of therapeutic, which again, we're lost in the world of thought, and we're not introducing ourselves to sensation-based, body-based, different other realms of experiencing our life that are completely foreign to so many people. And we want to make sure that we introduce people to those so that they have that in there. They have that rich experience of a full-bodied life that's actually present in the moment and not lost in a story about our lives. So I look forward to introducing these techniques to you. I can't wait to show you what's possible, quite honestly. You deserve an energy-rich life. And the only thing that's between you and that is learning how to take control of these defense mechanisms, melt them in such a way that you get to reclaim all that power. Then we get to go into creation. What do you want to create in this life? All we got to do is show you how to access the energy to go start doing that. So take care, guys.